In addition to the misattribution with respect to the Amaru name, you have a number of misattributions in America and also in Africa. In this particular instance, there is a misattribution related to the Fanti name. This is similar to Amaru because both names have roots in Italy. The name Fanti translates from the Italian into the English essentially as soldier. As with going into the English, when going into the Yoruba, you see the same connotation with this idea of a foot soldier. And translating between the English and the Igbo, you also have soldiers. In Italian literature, you also see this history of the Fanti being associated with being soldiers. And here you see them being associated with tribunals. It's interesting to note also that the Fanti have been associated historically with what was known as the Inquisition. There are a number of groups on the west coast of Africa that associate themselves with being victimized by colonization and the transatlantic slave trade. The Fanti happen to be no exception. However, the Fanti were instrumental in the transatlantic slave trade in terms of being slave traders. And this is a resource that you can look at to get a little bit more information about that. While the Fanti name is associated with foot soldier, the Fanti name is actually a noble name, so it is a name of nobility. And here you see that there was a Fanti Confederacy on the west coast of Africa, and the dates of the Confederacy coincide with those battle for succession dates. And so this again represents part of that European power presence on the west coast of Africa. In this instance, this is the Gold Coast and also associated with the Slave Coast. And looking at the Fanti history, you see that this confederacy originated in the late 17th century. And so what you have here is not a group of people who were colonized or who were victimized in the slave trade. What you have is a group of people who were colonizers and also victimizers in terms of the transatlantic slave trade. And here you see a little bit more information about the Fanti history. And again, this name is situated directly in Italy, as with the Amaru name. In this particular instance, the Fanti are associated with Venice and the prominent families of Venice. And here again, you see the name Fanti associated with this idea of being a foot soldier. You also see this name associated with identities such as knights. This is a noble name, and so this is a name of nobility, and this is a name with power in this particular setting. And so you even see this name Fanti being associated with the Senate. So in addition to the Fanti that colonized the west coast of Africa, you also see these name variations like simply Fant or Fanseli. This name is also figuring prominently in Brazil and Ecuador. Even though Brazil tends to be associated with the Yoruba and also with Portuguese, you see here that the Fanti name is associated with Brazil in terms of predominance. You also see some association with the United States, Italy, Ecuador, Germany, and Cameroon. As we wrap up this examination of the Fanti name and the Fanti history, one question comes up, and that is, what happened to the indigenous people that were on the west coast of Africa before the Fanti came to the west coast of Africa and colonized the west coast of Africa and then participated in the transatlantic slave trade? Remember, knowledge is power. Take care. See you soon.